Hi and welcome everybody. My name is Philip Tanser, better known as Logan McCree, and you are watching the Uncanny X-Men. Approximately 9 months ago, I attended a meeting that was organized by the Scottish government in regards to changes in the hate crime laws in Scotland. If you're not familiar with hate crime laws, it's if somebody commits a crime and this crime is committed based on hate towards a certain group, it can be a hate crime. But there are only certain groups that are protected. So, for example, if you're LGBT, you're protected. If you're attacked for your religion, or if you're attacked based on racism, these are some of the characteristics. Back then, I attended this meeting because feminist groups were pushing really hard to include misogyny as a hate crime, and were also working very hard not to make it gender neutral. So I attended the meeting, and I have to say that almost all the people attending the meeting were actually against the hate crime laws, full stop, because they said everybody should have the same protections, not certain groups should have better protection. But that was just at my meeting. I don't know what the other meetings were like. I have a friend, and he said that it was very similar at his meeting, but these were just two out of, I think, 6 meetings. But it's not like the hate crime laws don't have opposition or face criticism. But the Scottish government is very left leaning, very intersectional, incredibly intersectional. Our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, she is a very devout feminist, and you can see that in a lot of her actions and also even legislation. I would say there is a very clear bias against male victims of domestic violence coming directly from Nicola Sturgeon. Now, which groups are protected at the moment? It's age, disability, race, color, nationality, including citizenship, or ethnic and national origins, religion, sexual orientation, transgender identity, variations in sex characteristics. I think that's how they are trying to explain non-binary people. So they're really, really going with the times here. But the real problem comes later on in this change. I received an email today about the changes that they are making now and what they agreed on. And there are certain things that they haven't changed yet, but they're changing them soon, or they left the door open. So, power to add the characteristic of sex at a later date. So they might include sex, and you would say, oh, sex is at least inclusive. It's not all sexist, so to speak. And I will not read the whole thing to you. I will read to you the last two bits, which I think are quite interesting. If sex were to added to the legislative framework at a later date, it would provide protection on an inclusive basis, given that the application of hate crime legislation is based on the motivations of the perpetrator, and thus not on whether a victim actually shares one or more of the characteristics protected by the bill. So, for example, if a woman looks like a man, and she is attacked for being a man, she would still be protected, right? Yeah. Here's an example, and that's the only example they're using. For example, a statutory aggravation in relation to sex may apply where the offender evinces malice and ill will based on the offender's perception that the victim was a woman, irrespective of whether the victim was born a woman, a man, or whether the victim is a trans woman or a non-binary person. The statutory aggravation on sex could also be applied if a person was targeted because they have an association with women. Women. This very clearly indicates that they're only interested in pitching this law in one direction, I would think. Of course, they can say, well, we started the sentence with, for example. But especially the last sentence, when they say, if a person was targeted because they have an association with women, I think there is a narrative. I do think there is a very good reason why they don't say women or man. If you don't think this is indication enough in which direction this bill is gonna go, here's some more. What else is the Scottish government doing in addition to the bill? Misogynistic harassment. Yeah, you heard that right. In addition to the provisions included in the bill, the Scottish government, Nicola Sturgeon, and the SNP recognizes the clear need to tackle misogyny. The Scottish government is therefore committed in principle to developing a standalone offence on misogynistic harassment. A working group will be established to take this forward. The working group will look at how criminal law deals with misogyny. Criminal law dealing with misogyny, including whether there are gaps in legislation that could be filled with a specific offense on misogynistic harassment. I guess they mean mean words. The working group will also consider the power provided in the bill to, by regulations, add the characteristics of sex to the new hate crime framework established by the bill. The Scottish government will reflect on the conclusions reached by the working group, and I think we have a good picture what this working group's gonna look like, I think. And will report to the Parliament with agreed next steps. The ongoing focus of the Scottish Government is on responding to the coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak. However, the remit and membership of the working group on misogynistic harassment will be announced at the earliest date possible, and their work will begin shortly after. Doesn't that just sound absolutely amazing? I really do feel like moving away from Scotland, I have to tell you that. We might move into the direction of being the most misandrist country in Europe, that's for sure. The fact that this law intentionally includes hate against man is by definition misandrist and sexist. But there is a little bit more. The person who had the job to look at the hate crime laws and to change them, his name is Lord Brackadale. And when I had contact with them, it actually sounded like, yeah, they wanted to make it gender neutral, and they didn't want to make it just misogynistic. They want, if anything, they wanted to make it sex-based hate. But when I talked to them, it was very clear that there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of pressure from feminist and women's interest groups. Now, I just went to the website news.gov.scot in regards to the hate crime bill, and this is what it says on the website. While Lord Brackadale, in his review of hate crime legislation, recommended that gender should be added to the hate crime law, leading women's organizations were strongly opposed to this approach. They proposed a standalone offence on misogynistic harassment be developed, which the Scottish Government is committed to in principle. A working group will be established to take this forward and consider how the criminal justice system deals with misogyny, including whether there are gaps in the law that could be filled with a specific offence on misogynistic harassment. The group will also consider whether a statutory aggravation and or stirring up of hatred offences in the relation of the characteristics of sex should be included within the hate crime law. But again, I would assume just misogyny, not misandry. Mr. Yusuf, I'm not sure who Mr. Yusuf is, but I do think that he's part of the committee. Mr. Yusuf continued, I'm also clear that we must do more to tackle misogyny, and the Scottish Government is committed in principle to developing a standalone offence which could criminalise serious misogynistic harassment. We are establishing a working group to take this forward, and further details of this will be announced in due course. I'm scared. I'm really scared, and even if you don't live in Scotland, you should be scared too, because this is a precedent. If this happens in Scotland, this might happen in the UK, this might happen in other countries. If you know Count Dankula, a YouTuber, look him up. Really nice guy, very funny. He told a joke. You could say that the joke was in bad taste. I thought it was hilarious, and I say that as a German, it was a Nazi joke. And he was fined for telling a joke. This is where Scotland is moving towards too. These are really, really, really scary times. I'm gonna leave the link for the hate crime bill underneath this video. Please do make sure to leave comments, and I don't mean insulting comments, I mean proper criticism. Tell them how relevant, how prevalent misandry is in society, that this is a clear violation against the law itself. If they are against sex discrimination, this is a very clear sign of sex discrimination. Please share this video, share it with everybody else. Please share it with MRAs, tell them to make videos themselves. We need to spread the news. Contact newspapers, contact your MPs, write to the hate crime commission. We really, really need to tackle this. And if you're in Scotland, please make sure to join the Scottish Family Party. The Scottish Family Party is the only party in Scotland, as far as I know, that opposes institutional feminism and is helping to oppose bills like this. I really do urge you, even if there are some aspects of the party that you probably not fully agree with, we need to stand together and fight this enemy as one. And just to make this clear, I'm absolutely not in favor of any kind of harassment, be it misogynistic, misandrist, or in any other way. I'm against harassment, but I'm absolutely against this law, and I'm absolutely against sex discrimination. Please, please support me in this fight. Hit the like and subscribe button, share this video, and please leave comments underneath. If you want to help, if you want to get in contact, please leave a message or contact me on Twitter under Logan McCree. Thank you very much, and see you next time.